right, Hannah Dela Cruz, welcome to the podcast. Thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me here.
Absolutely. We've got a nice spot in downtown Tucson today. I think this place is called the Common Workspace or something like that.
Yeah, this spot's really cool. Like, you would never even know that it's here.
Yeah, it's just right by the library. It's like tucked in, and then you come up. It's kind of a nice little place. I got to keep it in mind for next time.
Yeah, you know what? Tucson's really good at these like awesome workspaces, and with I feel like the decor of every building here is amazing.
It's an artsy town.
Yeah, it really is.
I get that sense, and you're one of them, of course. Now that you're here.
Officially a local.
Yes, exactly. Well, you asked me before we started, and I'll answer your question finally,
Right.
like why I started doing this podcast, which is because I wanted an excuse to meet cool people. And so if you've got a podcast, right, so I can message you, and instead of being like, I'd love to hang out with you. It's a very strange thing to say to someone that you've never met. I can be like, oh, look, we have all these things in common. I think you'd be really fun to come on the podcast. And then we have some format for it. And there's something beneficial for you, of course, because you've got your new book coming out, which we'll talk about. And so it's just a nice way to be able to meet people. So I've met the coolest people, and I get to keep connections with those people. And hey, I'm back in town, and we'll do something again. You know, it's just a really nice way to reach out to new people, you know. I don't think we have a lot of excuses for that these days. So I feel
especially this time.
Especially right now.
Yeah, it's a little bit weird to ask people to hang out, which, you know, we love Tucson so much. We've been coming here for maybe 2 to 3 years, usually for an anniversary trip. And we just love it. We love all the restaurants. We love the nature around town. We love that you can kind of drive 15 minutes out of town and be just completely in the desert with giant saguaro cactus, and it's just amazingly beautiful. But yeah, like we moved here in the height of the pandemic.
Perfect
timing. Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of off timing to be making friends, and so unfortunately, some of our really favorite restaurants and bars have shut their doors because of the pandemic. So yeah, it's a little bit of a weird time, but we still really love it.
Yeah, it's a nice place. My wife Andrea and I have been out here 2 other times. We actually came out, so we were here over the winter, like over the holidays last year.
Best place to
overwinter. The best. And then we actually came back out in April, and that was sort of start of pandemic, and we weren't sure what anything was going to look like for a minute. All we knew was that we had a spot in Tucson where we could go outside, because at that time all of every park was starting to close. Like you couldn't go to like county, state parks at all. And that's a big thing for us. Like that's how we are able to get outside, since we don't have any property or anything like that. And so it was just a better spot to come back here. Cause I don't know if you got to see, but we travel full time in an RV. So
yeah, that is super cool. Yeah. How long have you guys been kind of doing that?
About 1.5 years, I think.
Wow.
Yeah. So we started in August of not last year, but the year before. So
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's a wild lifestyle. But,
what pushed you guys to do that full time?
We were traveling a lot for work, like getting on planes every other week kind of thing, where it's like, this is not fun anymore. This is not okay anymore. And we just said, you know, we're home less than we really want to be, considering how much we're paying for we had an apartment in Denver, and it was like, we're never even there. And so we just figured we could do it all from the road and just make that a part of it. And it worked out great. And so far it's been awesome. I don't think we're going to plan to stop at any point soon.
Yeah, no mortgage. Must be nice.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not bad. So did you guys get a house when you came out here?
We did. We bought a house on the northwest side of town.
Congratulations. That's super cool.
Thank you so much.
Good
yeah, we're on
too.
1.5 acres, a mile away from the Sweetwater Preserve.
Okay.
And we just actually got some recent news that the Saguaro National Park is expanding towards the Sweetwater Preserve. So they're connecting the two kind of wilderness areas.
Yeah.
So we'll be even closer to the park.
That's
which
so
is
cool.
Amazing. Yeah.
That's great. So we usually stay past the mountains on the west side of town, right near Tucson Mountain Park.
Nice.
And so that's where we literally can go from our backyard of the park we stay at and just walk into the trails there. It's just the best.
Yeah, it's so beautiful out there.
There's nothing like it, right?
No, and for us, it's because we love being outside too. And we moved from Las Vegas, and there's a lot of wilderness areas in Las Vegas too. Well, we kind of just found we kept wanting to escape our home life. We were traveling almost every weekend.
Yeah.
When we weren't traveling, we were always looking for a place to go, just because we just, I love Vegas. I love my friends there. It just wasn't for us anymore. So Yeah, now we're out here. Our house kind of backs into a wash.
Oh, okay.
So we don't have any neighbors behind our house.
That's great.
Yeah, we do have neighbors close by, but you can't hardly see their houses just because of the way that our neighborhood is set up. And we set up some trail cameras out back, and we get coyotes, bobcats, deer.
Wow.
Yeah, it's amazing. And it's for us, it's kind of like camping every night, except we
Right.
get to sleep in our comfortable bed.
Have you seen any of the wild pigs out there yet?
The javelinas?
Javelinas?
Yeah, I haven't seen them personally. I know
Uh-huh.
my boyfriend has, but we've seen them on camera.
Yeah.
Yeah, with their little babies.
I saw one day when I was out walking, and I kind of snuck up on it and didn't actually see me, but it was bigger than I was expecting.
Yeah.
And I was like, I'm just gonna turn around and walk the other way.
I've
'cause you
never
just don't
seen
know
them
what
in
to expect.
person. Are they like as big as a Labrador?
The
or
one I
something?
saw was, yeah. The one I saw was. I think I think a lot of them are smaller, and I've also been told that they really only like attack dogs. They don't really like go after humans. But I'm nervous around pigs in general, like wild pigs. I've heard stories, man.
I've heard they're aggressive.
Yeah, they can be for sure.
Yeah.
They can be for sure, and they breed like crazy. So it's.
I've heard in the spring the families are crazy, like the huge, enormous families.
I believe that. I believe that. And it's like every animal has that season where they go crazy too,
Yeah.
right? And I don't always know what season that is for that. I mean, I guess it's mostly fall if you're thinking about like moose or things like that, but you obviously don't have any of that here.
No, not here.
don't
I
think so.
remember when we.
This is all your cord, by the way. You can get more
yeah.
comfortable, whatever you want.
I remember a few years ago, maybe 2 years ago, we went to Alaska during cub season. And
Oh, cool.
yeah, so we kept seeing all these like grizzly bears everywhere. And yeah, they say like you can kind of like get big and intimidate them and they'll walk away, except if it's like a mama bear.
Right.
Then you're definitely dead.
Right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. As much as I love nature, I'm also very aware of it. You know what I
For
mean?
sure.
And I've had a couple times out here walking and I'm dumb too, because I'll walk with like barefoot sandals on, basically, is how I like to roll, which is the dumbest thing I could do because I've definitely almost stepped on like 2 rattlesnakes at different times.
my gosh.
And you're just like, oh, dodge that one. But I won't always. But you know what? I've done this on the podcast before. I'm sorry, podcast listeners, because I talk about Tucson a lot. And we've looked this up, and rattlesnakes mostly bite people on the hands because people mess with them, because people try to get sticks and poke at them and screw with them. That's who they bite, not really like nipping at anybody's ankles, you know?
Yeah, you have to really respect nature. I think as human beings, we're kind of raised with this idea that nature is for ours to dominate. But when you're in a town like Tucson or anywhere where there's a lot of wilderness, you kind of have, you kind of learn to respect it, and you coexist with these animals. This is not, our land. This is for everybody to share. And
Right.
I think when, people are in cities or something like that, I'm from a city. I'm from Philadelphia originally. So
Right, okay.
I never had this kind of point of view on it. And, I think a lot of people don't know how to act in nature. Like you were saying with the snakes, they see a snake and they're immediately intimidated or curious, like
Right.
you said, prodding and poking it. But if you kind of leave them alone, they'll just chill and, they're more afraid of humans than we are of them, I think.
And they can hear you coming when you're walking. They can
Right.
like feel the shock in the ground. So
And
they
they'll
mostly get
warn
out of your
you
way.
if they're upset.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have you ever like looked straight into one's eyes though?
I haven't in the wild, but at the museum.
Okay.
I have.
Okay.
I don't know if you've checked out the museum.
I haven't yet. No. Well, because by the time I finally learned about Tucson, it's kind of been a little dodgy to go
Right.
to all these places. But no, yeah, Andrea and I were out walking one day, and one was like crossing over the trail. So we just waited. We just let it cross over. And I thought it had kind of gone far enough that it wouldn't be bothered if we kept going. But as soon as I started walking, it like turned around and just stared into my soul. And it was like, you're just going to walk there? That's where you're going to walk? It was
like
a
too
lot.
close.
Yeah. But you know what? Sometimes you got to like you got to like stare down
Right.
and just see it and just recognize it. Otherwise you can't respect it.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, I'm so scattered today. I apologize.
Oh, no worries.
I
I am
actually, I just did a podcast yesterday, and it was like a totally different style of podcast. The fun thing about this show is that some podcasts will be like this, like we're in a nice conference room. It's very professional. It seems very, very professional. Yesterday, we were sitting on someone's back porch smoking cigars and doing this thing.
That's
I'm hoping
fun too.
These don't smell. Does this smell like cigar?
No,
okay.
no.
All right, perfect, cool. And I probably stink because I also just came from jiu-jitsu down the road. So,
how fun.
Yeah, just been doing a lot here.
Full day.
And then I come here and
This morning
I'm
I
like,
made waffles and then I came here.
Oh, well, that's pretty good. Man, I would switch mornings with you. I mostly just got killed several times. I'm not very good at jiu-jitsu, so. So was the move to Tucson like part of your, I know you had kind of a career shift into doing what you're doing now. Was that part of it, or were they not really related at all?
They weren't really related. We moved to Tucson because we love it, which is great.
It's the best reason to move anywhere, by the way.
Which is, we just love it so much. And we're so lucky that my boyfriend works remote, so he can kind of be anywhere he wants. And I can too. So it was, it's nice to be somewhere because you love it, not because. And we're very grateful and lucky, to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel the same way too, because again, we also obviously work remotely, and it's the best thing.
Yeah.
And it also makes sourdough a lot more possible.
Yes.
When you can be home during the day, doesn't it?
Are you baking in your RV?
Yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Okay.
So I've been baking sourdough for a few years now.
Wow.
And no, when I messaged you, I was like, I really do have an obsession. It's a serious thing for me. But I don't do it to the level that you do it.
I don't think a lot of people do.
I hope not.
Just to the level, but to the obsession
for
that
sure.
I have with it.
I will. To do it, you have to have some version of obsession, right? Because it's too much commitment otherwise. But I'm more like, I make bread regularly so that we have bread around. So I will make like one large thing of dough once a week.
Okay.
That I will then put it in the fridge usually. And then I will whip it out when it's time to make some burger buns so we can have burgers for dinner, or to make a pizza, I will whip it out. Or else I'll make like bagels in between that. So it's really way more like I've made that fit into our lives than making my life sort of revolve around it.
Yeah.
But your life kind of revolves around sourdough at the moment, doesn't it?
It's really weird. I made my starter about 2 years ago. Complete left field hobby to have.
You didn't have any, like, no one in your family was doing this, or didn't grow up with it?
No, I mean, I grew up in a Filipino household, which we have a lot of appreciation and love for food. So I've always had that.
Right.
But never bread making or anything like that. But about 2 years ago, 2018, I quit my job. Just kind of cold turkey, I was just kind of spinning my wheels. Wasn't super happy about what I was doing, not passionate at all, and kind of generally lost, which I think a lot of people in our age group kind of have a feeling similar to that. So I have a partner who was very generous and allowed me kind of to take a break because, the whole thing was kind of affecting our relationship, kind of affecting my mental health. And I quit and I just didn't have a plan. And then one day I just thought, I'll make a sourdough starter, because I'd always loved cooking. And then it kind of just snowballed from there. And I made my Instagram. I was kind of just learning through the Instagram. I was connecting with people who love sourdough as much as I do, kind of learning from everybody's posts. And with the bread community, everybody's so generous with information.
There's a big community, and they're all nice people.
Yeah, they're all nice people.
Instagram, Reddit has a pretty decent bread community too.
I gotta get into Reddit.
Yeah. There's the subreddit sourdough.
Okay.
Is the one that I follow, because the bread one, it's a lot of like they're using yeast for most things. Which I get. That's fine. I'm not judging anybody. I am judging them a little bit. No, but the sourdough is where it's happening, because then people will be like, oh, sourdough croissants. And I'll be like, oh, interesting. All right.
Exactly.
So I get new ideas from them.
Yeah.
They do the wildest designs on the tops of their loaves too, which I haven't really gotten into. The scoring designs are just.
I think that's like what I first got into, was the scoring part of it.
It's like painting. It's like a canvas.
Yeah, it is. And people get really creative with it. Yeah, there's a few people, Bread Journey on Instagram, if any sourdough lovers out there that love the the scoring thing. Bread Journey is amazing. I get a lot of my inspiration with her. This other, who I just found out about, Sourdough with Sachi. Okay. She does these amazing like animals and sweaters.
How's the bread though? I mean, at the end of the day, is the bread good?
I don't know. I've never had her bread, but it looks good.
You never see them cut into it. Well, sometimes you do.
Yeah, you never see them cut into it. But I mean, I love a good sourdough scoring creativity Instagram.
Yeah. You do really well with the whole food picture thing.
Oh, yeah.
Which I think I honestly think that's an art form in itself because it's super hard to make everything look good on that sort of flat lay style of baking things and little props to make it all look right. And
I used to, when I first started my account, I didn't know how to take pictures at all. My boyfriend, he does a lot of astrophotography. So he takes pictures, but completely different. And then last year, I was invited to the Sever Blog Awards because I was a finalist. And I met a lot of the bloggers there. And it's super inspiring to just be around all the bloggers there because they were really good at food photography. So after that experience, I was kind of like, whoa, my pictures do not look like that.
Yeah.
So this year, I kind of made it my mission to get a little bit better with the food photography stuff. So I took a few courses.
Like in-person courses or online
stuff?
No,
online.
Oh, what kind of stuff?
Yeah. Gosh. Eat, Capture, Share by Kimberly. I'm like blanking on her, which is I hate because I love her so much. And then Broma Bakery has another course, and those are the two that I took.
Okay.
They've been really helpful, but they weren't helpful until I was ready to learn.
Yeah.
You know.
Right.
Yeah. So it's a lot, and when you see those like pictures on Instagram, it's really easy to think that it's effortless. And I think people, it's supposed to look effortless. So that makes people think it's easy, but it's really hard.
Right. Yeah, you're just supposed to make it look like you just have a Food Network kitchen all of a sudden.
Right.
Even though most of us don't.
No, yeah. I take my pictures in my guest bedroom.
Okay.
So the bed's kind of pushed to one corner, and I have an IKEA desk, and I have like a sheet over the window. And then I have my backdrops, and I have my C-stand, and that's how I do it.
It's kind of odd that we have to do it like that, isn't it? Isn't it odd that you can't just have one like baking sourdough is impressive enough, right. But if you want people to pay attention, then you have to become a food photographer too.
Gosh, yeah.
Strange, right?
It's not even just being a food photographer; it's being your own marketing manager, and you're branding, and you're doing your own PR, and you're doing your own social.
Right. But to be fair, I guess it is a little bit different. I mean, if you're a bakery, if the point is the revenue stream is people buy the things that you make, as opposed to the way you go about it, which is that people are getting books or getting information. I guess that is a little bit different in a way.
Yeah. And I mean, it's really hard and it's a lot of work. But you got to work for it to like get people's attention,
Yeah.
You have to deserve people's attention, I feel like, nowadays.
It's highly competitive.
Yes.
We're all competing for more attention.
Exactly.
It's super difficult. Okay, so the obsession for you with sourdough then, is it all about flavor for you, or do you really get into the health aspect as well? Because I'll go down the bacteria rabbit hole with you, because I love talking about that. But if that's not even your thing, we don't have to.
I guess it's a little bit of both. For me, I've always had kind of issues with health. And actually, before I made my sourdough starter, I never ate bread because I just always demonized carbs. And I was always one of those low carb people. I was like on keto for a little bit, and
carbs and gluten, or just
carbs.
Okay.
I think like I didn't really know anything. I was just always following these like diet trends and stuff like that. But I think sourdough and having my blog really normalized my relationship with food. It's still kind of I still have some unhealthy like thoughts about food every now and then, but it's really helped me kind of be nicer to myself about having a full fat dessert or having sugar in my diet, and not really demonizing, whole groups of food, and, not being so hard on myself for wanting to eat what I want.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's, I don't know if this is just an old expression. I think I heard it from Alton Brown. The idea of eat anything you want to eat. No. Shoot. I try to remember who I heard this from, but it's just the idea of eat anything that you want to eat. Just you have to cook it yourself. Like if you cook everything, you're gonna end up with a diet that is pretty healthy overall.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, that's how I feel about most things, because it's funny, every time our friend of ours comes and we host anybody for dinner, they're always saying this is a scratch kitchen, because we make everything ourselves. Like, we'll make pasta ourselves, we'll make obviously the bread ourselves, we make tortillas, and I think it shocks people how easy it is. Sometimes I hear people say, I'll just go to the store, and I kind of just like roll my eyes, because it's like, okay, so you'll buy a pack of you'll either have a pack of tortillas that will get moldy, or you'll just have flour and water. Yeah. And some salt. Right. And you can make whatever you want. Right.
But it even goes deeper than that, though. Like, if there's one ingredient that I do demonize, it's probably sugar. That's probably the one thing that I'm in general going to stay far away from. But I feel like the key difference between cooking everything yourself, first of all, when it comes to sugar, you're going to put a lot less in, because you're going to see how much it's supposed to go in, and you're like, that's all right. I'm cool. Yeah. And you can start to wean off because you're actually seeing what's going in. But I feel like the real sketchy thing with a lot of processed foods is the stuff you don't know is in there. So like the tortillas you're buying from the store, I'm going to guarantee, I don't feel like there's a brand of tortilla that is just flour, water, salt. That's not going to happen. It's going to be all sorts of additives. It's going to be all sorts of preservatives. And I think that the hidden stuff is kind of the scary stuff, to be honest. And so I feel like part of the mantra of, as long as you make it, just eat whatever you want, that goes into it, because you're taking as many things from scratch as you can. I guess.
Yeah, it is really crazy to read a bread label. Yeah. And seeing what they're throwing in there. Because bread is just flour, water, and salt.
Right. But then it's also, there's all those things where they take out any of the nutrients from flour, and then they refortify it with sort of vitamin form nutrients. Like, you'll see that they'll add in vitamin B or whatever.
Oh, yeah.
It's very strange to see that.
It's really weird. Yeah. And people don't know. And it's funny with the health aspect of it, that the reason that bread is bad is because you can't digest wheat yourself, because we don't have the enzymes for it, right? But since sourdough is acting as your second stomach, then those things are more bioavailable to you. So people will get a loaf of whole wheat bread from the store that's made with commercial yeast really, really fast, just with all these artificial additives to it, and they think that's healthy. Right. And I think it's just, the lack of information. I think,
it's just it's just old information.
Right.
I mean, there's sort of that classic moment in history that you can look back on. I think it was during the 50s when we were deciding, is fat the bad guy here when it comes to heart disease, or is it sugar? Right. And unfortunately, I think we went down the wrong pathway, that the research was not correct. And now we have to undo decades of people's assumptions. Right. People buying low-fat things, thinking that means healthy, when really they've just amped up the sugar in whatever thing you're buying. I mean, it's just a mess. But sourdough is such an eye-opener. So that's why I was asking from the health perspective. Yeah. Like, anything fermented is just such an eye-opener. I think I first got into it from Michael Pollan's book, Cooked, obviously. I mean, he does such a good job of explaining what that really looks like. But yeah, the idea that you've got a second stomach. I like how you put that. That, like, when you're using fermentation, that's all that's happening inside your stomach anyways. I mean, we're all just made up of bacteria anyways. And I've done that on the podcast before. Sorry, podcast listeners. The people who listen to this regularly know I'll just go on bacteria tangents. But you're right. You're like letting it digest on the counter so that once you can eat it, it's completely digestible. It's a totally different animal entirely. I still feel shitty when I'll eat like a bagel from just like a normal bagel shop. I feel terrible. Or go to Subway and get a sandwich. Ugh, I feel awful. Subway. No, Subway, I love you. I love you for road trips especially. But I'll feel terrible from that bread. But it doesn't happen when I'm making sourdough at home. ever feel great. Yeah. It's a strange one.
It really is. And the thing about fermentation too is I think people think it's gross to let your food rot.
Right.
But I mean, it's such an old tradition and it turns out so much better for you. Like I think when I started the sourdough thing that I really got into fermentation as well. So I was making tepache, I had a kefir starter, I was doing kombucha.
Yep. I still do that.
Yeah, I love it too. It's just amazing. And you end up having a lot less food waste when you know how to ferment your food.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. And when you get into sourdough and you start working with the discard too, there's some magic that can happen in the discard. Like I've made some very cool things from discard that I'm like, I don't think I can make that from like my active starter. Like it needs to sort of be old and weird. And yeah, I like to let things sit in my fridge for a really long time too and just like really get good and sour and broken down, and that's the best way to go.
I love that you said that because I think my account is actually more known for my discard recipes than my bread.
Totally get that.
So
you've got a lot of competition when it comes to pure bread. Like you've got Tartine, and there's a lot of really, really good sourdough bakers. But if you can nail some discard recipes, that's what everybody's looking for.
Yeah, so I think my big one that everybody loves is my pasta recipe. Okay. So I put discard in my pasta. I mean, for about 2 years now since I made my starter, I hardly make anything without any starter. So all of my cookies, brownies, pasta, I think about like 2/3 of my book is actually discard recipes.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so I have like a really amazing chocolate cake recipe that has discard in it. Pineapple upside down cake, which is like a household favorite.
Nice.
Yeah, so I'll throw discard in there. I mean, it's just flour and water.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it makes, because of all the moisture that's locked into the discard, the baked goods end up staying moist for a while.
Yeah, it's the best.
Yeah, it really is.
So the book is Sourdough Every Day.
Yes.
Is it out now? I saw that I could pre-order it last night. I was looking to buy it.
It's kind of a mess. So it's out now, but all of the with all the logistical issues that have been caused by COVID, they're a little bit behind. I think they sold out on Amazon. So a lot of my friends who purchased it like right when it came out, theirs are delayed by a little bit. But you guys will get your books, I promise. I know. I saw 2 of my friends actually got their books, and then I haven't seen anybody else get it.
Okay.
So I'm a little bit bummed that it's not in people's hands.
This episode will go out in like a week and a half too. Okay. So maybe there'll be a little more catch up time. Yeah. It'll be after Christmas, I think. Right? Is that true? Yeah, because Christmas is next week, isn't it?
Yeah, on Friday. Can you believe it?
Oh my goodness. It's easy for me now because now I don't really go to family anymore.
Okay.
So it's just a Zoom call. Very simple.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make pasta. I think on Christmas. This has been a running joke with Andrea and I that I might make her some fettuccine.
Ooh.
I'm concerned because I don't have a
pasta machine
or even a handheld or like the ones that clamp on the counter or anything like that.
That's what I have, but yeah,
rolling pin. Will I be all right?
Yeah, put more eggs.
Okay, so it's a little softer. Okay.
Because if it's too hard, then it won't roll out. But knead it a lot. Take a break in between, do like an hour, and then knead it again. And then, yeah, and if you're doing the sourdough pasta, I usually make it a day in advance to get the flour fermented.
Love that.
People really love that. So, yeah, if you want to try the recipe, it's on my blog.
Okay, it's on your blog.
Yeah.
Cool. I will go try that.
Yeah.
That's perfect. Because I was just going to go classic flour and eggs. But now I'm like, oh yeah, why don't I do sourdough? That's how I do everything.
Right.
That's great.
Yeah, okay. I love the sourdough pasta. It gives it a little tang.
Oh, love that.
But it's really, really good. It's really delicious.
All right. Perfect. Well, now I have a plan. Yeah. And Andrea's going to be very happy about that. So, it's just... it's sort of an endless... I feel like I like getting into things that are just kind of endless. You can put as much time into it as you want.
Right.
Like there is a bottom threshold. You have to at least make sure that you're keeping that starter alive.
Yes.
But beyond that, sky's the limit. You can do as much as you want. And there's some weeks where I just exhaust myself making things every single day. And then there's weeks where I'm like, that starter's going to stay in the fridge for a week. I'm done. Yeah. I need a break. But you can do that when you start to get to know it well enough. And
I mean, I think a lot of the reason I started the blog was there was just a lot of really confusing information about sourdough when I first started. And it's not that people were being confusing. It was just that sourdough is confusing at first.
Yeah.
So
I think people are being confusing though. I
you
think you're
so?
being nice
Okay,
because
being nice.
there's too much math.
Right.
The hydration ratios, when people start laying those out, I'm like, I'm done with that. That I don't even bother because my knowledge of math stopped in high school and has not advanced since then. Right. Because who needs it? We've got calculators in our pockets. But that part for me, I think, is
You've
where
never used calculus once in your life?
No, surprisingly, man. I wake up every day and I just go through the motions. I don't need calculus at all. I don't think. No. Yeah, I can't remember the last time I was trying to determine the volume of a curve. Yeah. No idea. Do you regularly?
No.
Whip out the calculus knowledge?
Well, you know what? I do a lot of calculations, especially for the book.
I totally believe that you have to.
Yeah, I am.
You can't ignore it like I can.
Yeah, I am very big on Baker's percentages. So
Okay.
I never thought that I would use as much math as I have and be comfortable enough with math. But it's an Excel sheet, you know. It helps me, but
That's
yeah,
good.
you're right. I mean, like in the beginning, I think it's confusing, and it is confusing when people are like, "You have to feed it at the exact time every day."
Mm-hmm.
Spoiler: you don't.
No, you don't. Once you get it going, it's pretty dang resilient. Honestly.
It really
I
is.
abuse mine pretty good, and
Oh,
it's all
yeah.
right. It's all right.
Yeah, I have. I think people ask me sometimes if they can't make if they're making a starter and they can't make it work. Like they ask me what they're doing wrong, and I honestly don't. I can't help them because and I'm not trying to be like I'm the best at this. I just have never. It's never gone wrong for me.
Yeah.
So I can't help when in that matter because it's so easy.
There's things that can easily go wrong though.
It can grow mold.
It can grow mold.
Yeah.
If you have too much chlorine in your water, it
Yeah.
can really fuck with it. If you've got, I always feel like using organic flour is good. Some people throw like bleached flour in there, and I'm like, I'm pretty sure it's already dead. Like I'm pretty sure that's what the bleach does.
Yeah.
So you gotta like pick the right ingredients for sure.
Yeah.
But also for starters, well, for beginners, not for starters. For beginners making starters,
Yeah.
a scale. And people don't want to commit to that right away. They're like, well, I just have
I don't
measuring
get.
cups. It's fine. It's like $10.
It's so yeah. I love my scale. When you break free of the cups, you'll be such a better baker, and also you have less to clean.
Yeah.
Just throw it right in there.
Yeah. Exactly. It's the easiest thing.
Yeah.
But I think people just don't want to commit right off the bat.
Yeah,
No.
a lot of people will comment on my blog and ask me to do volume measurements, and I'm like, I don't do volume measurements. I did them in the book, so if you do buy the book, there's volume measurements in the book because my publisher asked for it. But on my blog, I don't really do it. Your bakes are gonna come out so much more consistent and better if you have a scale. And yeah, it's $10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's pretty simple. The
Super
idea of like
simple.
how much flour can you pack into one cup if you like really try to pack it down is going to be so much different than how much if you just sort of sprinkle it into a cup.
Right.
Like it's just not a good way to measure flour.
No,
I feel
no.
like it's okay with water.
Liquid
it's-
is fine.
Right, because that has a consistent, I guess, weight ratio or what's the word I'm looking for? Mass to weight, something.
Yeah. Science.
See, again, high school is where the science stopped.
Yeah.
But yeah, just get that scale.
Yeah, get that scale if you want to be a serious baker.
Yeah. And even if you don't.
Yes,
I mean,
if you don't.
even if you just want to be like me and just but I think I'm still more serious probably than the average person, unfortunately.
If you have a scale, probably.
Do you think so? Is that the defining line?
I think so.
Oh. Well, then I'm fancy.
Yeah, you're fancy.
Right.
You're a fancy baker.
Okay. So the latest thing I saw you were doing was some tea brand that you're working with.
Yeah, so Harney's contacted me to be part of their tea fluencer series where they just kind of ask you a few questions about tea, and then I got to play around with some of their tea for a white chocolate blueberry Earl Grey roll recipe,
That sounds amazing.
but with sourdough.
That sounds incredible.
Yeah, it was really good. The title's a little long.
Yeah.
So it's not the best for social media.
Couldn't just leave out one thing. You were
Right,
like, no,
yeah.
I'm gonna
I was
have the
like,
white chocolate in there.
everything.
I just can't.
Yeah, I did it when I was doing my experiments for the recipe, I was doing a bunch of different fillings. And my boyfriend, who's my taste tester, loved the white chocolate one the best. So
nice.
Yeah, I couldn't just go with just the Earl Grey sugar in the rolls. It had to be the white chocolate.
I need your baking advice.
Yeah, sure.
Because when I try to add things into a dough or into any sort of mix, I find that it just tears holes in the gluten, which has been a big problem for me. So I've tried.
Okay.
But I don't know how I would keep something. Like, do you melt the white chocolate first of all before you're using it, or how are you doing the white chocolate? Is it chunks?
Filling.
Oh, that's just the filling. Okay.
Yeah.
So is there anything going in the dough? Like, are the blueberries going in the dough, or is that all part of the filling too?
Just the filling.
Does the tea go in the dough?
Yeah. There's Earl Grey tea in the dough.
And you just put straight ground tea, I guess, or what is it?
I brew the tea. So there's tea in as hydration, and then it's enriched with butter and sugar.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah, that makes the dough really, really soft.
So do you ever put anything in the dough that can kind of like tear it or do anything like that?
Yeah, I do. I do fillings a lot. I really, I'll do like a cranberry walnut, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it rip? But it doesn't rip through the gluten for you?
I think the key for me is putting it in right before shaping.
Okay.
So that it doesn't so that way it's like your dough's already really, really strong, and then it doesn't tear, like you said, like those gluten strands that you've built up.
Gotcha. Okay, that's what I've been doing wrong.
Just be kind of gentle.
Yeah. I had the same issue making some sourdough pancakes where I put blueberries in.
Okay.
And then they fell apart because there was nothing to sort of bind it.
Yeah.
They weren't fluffy like I wanted.
Yeah.
It's sad.
It's tricky sometimes with like pancakes and waffles and stuff like that because it really changes the structure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming you made sourdough waffles this morning then.
Yes.
Do you make them in like a waffle press, or what is your?
Yeah, I have a waffle iron.
That's cool.
Yeah, just like a really cheap Black & Decker one.
Yeah.
We've had it for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't gotten a serious waffle maker, but I love making the sourdough waffles. They're so good.
Yeah, I mean, just take anything that you might eat that is a bread product and then turn it into sourdough.
100%.
It's gonna taste better. It's gonna feel better.
Exactly.
It's gonna be better for you. I have a weird conspiracy about Fleischmann's yeast.
Okay.
Because I think that Fleischmann's yeast is like at the top of the Illuminati pyramid.
Oh my god.
Like 100%. And I think the reason is, first of all, they're one of like the oldest companies in the United States. Like that was one of the first things was Fleischmann's, because back then that would be the thing you needed to make anything. I mean, it's like as old as tobacco and tea and all sorts of things.
What's her name? She had the blood company.
The blood company?
Yeah, it's like the pinprick of blood. She was like huge. She wears like a black turtleneck all the time.
I have no idea.
Oh my gosh.
I like where you're going.
She had a startup.
You can look it up if you want.
Yeah,
I don't
I'll
mind. This is not that kind of podcast.
Yeah, I'll look it up. Let's see. I can't believe Elizabeth Holmes.
Okay.
And she had, what's her startup's name? But yeah, she was like in the Fleischmann family, and there was this huge controversy where she raised a bunch of money and then she had contracts with like CVS and like.
Oh wait, why is this starting to ring a bell now? It was like this technology that was supposed to.
The pinprick of blood.
Yeah, it was. But what was it supposed to do? Was it like a test for something?
Yeah,
or?
it was supposed to be a competitor to like LabCorp and Quest.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And then they found out it was completely all fake. Like it was fake technology. This is so funny bringing this up because I swear I just heard about this for the first time.
Theranos.
Okay.
Is the name of
and she's part of the Fleischmann.
Yeah, I think her like uncle or great uncle or something.
See, that's what I'm saying.
Started the Fleischmann company.
Like when you have
she was like an offshoot of it.
That's old family money. That's older than Rockefeller family money.
Which
this is
crazy.
Like yeah. So I feel very conspiratorial about Fleischmann's yeast. I think they own everything. I'm pretty sure they're pulling all the strings.
Yeah.
That would be good. It'd be good and dumb. But I mean, you can't actually, if you go farther back, it's got to be tea, right? Like East India tea. I mean, I just think whoever had the money first is the one who won in the end. That's what I think happened.
Are we talking about yeast versus tea?
I'm just talking about the Illuminati in general. It's good. I like meeting someone for the first time, and then within the first, several minutes, I'm just like, yeah. So here's my thoughts about the Illuminati. That's what I like to do with this podcast. No, but I mean, it's very old money. They were the one place to get yeast, and it's very strange that this strain of yeast is the thing we use for everything.
Yeah.
For beer brewing, I assume it's got to be like the most stable type of yeast or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. I've talked to some beer makers about beer making, and I asked them about wild yeast fermentation because obviously I've made some like wild yeast drinks.
Have you really?
Yeah.
Well, tell me about that. That sounds cool.
Well, tepache is one. I don't know if you're familiar
with
tepache.
No, you mentioned it before.
Yeah,
I don't know what that
tepache is, I think it's traditionally Mexican, where all you do is ferment the skin and the core of a pineapple.
Okay.
So I think it's like brown sugar, the pineapple skin and the core, and water, and you just kind of let it go.
Interesting.
And it turns into this like really delicious drink. I actually had it in Tucson for the first time.
Okay.
So we went to the Agave Festival last April, and a few of the bars had it. They were just serving it, and I wanted to make it. And it's really good. And so, anyways, the beer maker that I was talking to, Mad Fermentist in Las Vegas, check them out. They're so good if you're over in that area. I was talking to him about wild yeast fermentation for beer, and they said that wild yeast just isn't powerful enough or stable enough to kind of push fermentation to convert all the sugars all the way to be able to make beer. I think that's what he said. And sorry, beer makers, I'm not a beer maker, so that might not be accurate or might not be remembering it right. And they said that if you do wild yeast in your facility, then all of your stuff kind of gets infected with it.
Oh, okay.
So I think the commercial yeast or whatever strains of yeast that they use for beer, right, they're a little bit more stable.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
But historically, I've got a problem with that, right? Because we've been making beer for a really long time. Mm-hmm. So there had to be something before there was easily accessible commercial yeast where you could 100%. Still make beer, right?
Yeah.
But I don't know what that would be.
I don't know.
I know way more about, bread's easy. Bread
right.
was, we took flour, we took water, you left it out, and something happened. And it was like this miracle thing, and then you baked it, and then
right.
we had bread.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeast within bread is so new historically. The commercial yeast within bread instead of wild yeast. But that has to be true for beer too, right? How are they doing it?
I don't know. I'm not super 100% on the beer.
And I think full conjecture about this. I'm totally
also just two people.
Just bro science. Yeah. It's the best way to do it.
Two people that don't know anything about beer.
I know that it tastes good.
Yeah, I think it's with bread you're also cooking it.
Okay.
So, and with beer, I think it's because you're not really cooking it or distilling it in any way. Okay. You have to be a little bit more, exact about how you're making it.
I get that.
Yeah.
Although even with kombucha, because I feel like kombucha and mead are really similar to each other.
Right. Kombucha can go so wrong too.
Can it really?
I feel sometimes
I am so rude to my kombucha. I don't take care of that thing hardly at all, and it's always great.
I mean, it's just sometimes it tastes better sometimes and not. I feel like I was super into kombucha for a while. I just couldn't keep up with it. I wasn't drinking enough to be able to keep up with my starter.
Yeah.
My starter was this thick.
Really?
By the time that I got rid of it.
That's how I am with kefir or kefir. I just couldn't do it. If you're doing the whole milk one, we had to do a quart a day.
Right.
And I was like, I can't drink a quart. I can't drink half a quart of this every single day without fail. That's not going to happen.
And it multiplies so fast.
Yes. And then I got to the point where there were too many grains, and I would try to get rid of some of them, and it just wasn't working, and it was getting sick. And
I was selling dime bags of kefir starter when I was in Las Vegas.
Yeah. You were in the black market of fermentation.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I listed on Facebook Marketplace. It was a tablespoon.
I like how you said dime bags, not just bags. You're they were dime bags. They were
It was
you were
really
meeting up in a 7-Eleven and passing them off under.
That's hilarious because we were actually meeting up at a Dottie's in Las Vegas. Dottie's is a casino.
Oh, okay.
It's like, I don't know if you've ever been in Las Vegas.
I haven't. That's why I'm totally not knowledgeable.
Yeah, so there's these like little bars everywhere in Las Vegas where you could kind of, you can play like machines, like gambling machines.
Okay.
At the bar any time of day. And there was a Dottie's, one of these bars, at the corner of like our neighborhood. They're everywhere in Las Vegas. But so I'd be like, meet me at the Dottie's parking lot. And I'd have these like little bags of
That's
kefir.
So funny.
And they're white.
Yeah.
So sometimes my boyfriend would come with me and I just like exchange money in these like little bags of kefir with people. And my boyfriend was like, you gotta like print out a care sheet or something.
Yeah, you gotta put it in a little basket or something. Make it look not shady.
Because he was like, I don't want to be involved if people see you out in the parking lot selling dime bags of kefir. It looks super sus.
It does. It absolutely does. Thank you for using that word. It does. Were you doing the milk one or the coconut water one?
I was doing so I had both. I had I was searching for some kefir grains for a while, and I bought some from like a company online. They kind of got moldy. It didn't work out, and then I had a follower on Instagram who does kefir and kombucha. I think he does too, and he sent me some, and he sent me water and milk. I like the milk.
I did too.
I didn't like the water as much.
I can't say I've had it.
Okay.
I can't say I've had it.
Yeah, I still have the grains in my fridge. I haven't made it. I just feel bad throwing it away.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. It's alive. It's a pet.
It is.
It's a pet. Does your starter have a name? This is a very important question.
My starter, I'm such a nerd. My starter's name is Pasteur.
Okay. I should know the reference.
After Louis Pasteur, he like...
Oh, Pasteur. Okay,
yeah,
gotcha.
I think he discovered yeast or something, or fermentation. And
wasn't he for pasteurization?
Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah. But again, the knowledge
which is like opposite of what he did.
Really? So he was like into...
I think he discovered the...
germs.
Yeah, the action of, yeast. I could be totally wrong about this too.
I like it anyway. It's fine. I don't have a fact checker. Maybe one day, if this podcast gets big enough, I'll have a fact checker with me.
Yeah.
But I don't need one for right now.
The people are just out there mad, kind of like...
Someone
that's
knows,
wrong.
right?
Yeah.
I think that's the hard thing with podcasts. Someone always knows better than we do what we're talking about.
Yeah.
And we just sound like idiots. But we don't have to listen to them. That's the best part.
Exactly, yeah.
You're not in this room. You don't get to be part of this conversation.
We're bro scientists.
Don't at us. We don't need to know.
So... I think he discovered that whole like yeast ingests like sugar and like turns it into, bacteria and all the good stuff that we love.
That's good. I think it's crucial to name it.
Yeah.
Have you killed a few or is this your original?
I can't even, I know I made one for the book. So I don't know if this is the book one or if this is my original one.
Okay.
I think I did. My original one, I started feeding it whole wheat. And she got really sluggish. Mm-hmm. So I dried her up and I'm keeping her in my my freezer just for posterity.
So you don't just name them, you also gender your starters. Is the current one also a female or a male?
I mean, Louis Pasteur was a man.
So it's a man.
But all of my starters have been named Pasteur.
Okay.
And I call them all female gender pronoun.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You just got to pick, right?
Yeah.
50,
I don't know.
50. It could be a they.
Yeah,
it could be a they starter if you want. Sure. Be very modern. I think that's a crucial part of the process. You have to name your starter so you connect with it.
Yeah, exactly. You have a relationship with it.
You have a relationship with it. And it does require care like a pet does.
Yeah.
And sometimes it becomes sick, but when it becomes sick, it's not $1,000 vet bill.
No.
It's much easier than that, in fact. I had one once that my heart broke because it was in the oven, and I think one of us, let's just say it was me. I'll just take the blame on this one. Yeah. Pretty sure who did it. It wasn't me. But somebody preheated the oven in my apartment, and it was in there just sort of staying warm with the oven light, and it perished right there.
Did you put a sign on the oven? Mm-mm. So it sounds like it's your fault.
Yeah, but the kitchen's my domain in my house is the thing. So I don't know. Maybe I did preheat the oven. You know what? And I'll just take it. That's fine. Sometimes you just offer to lose the battle. That I turned the oven on, and it suffered in there. But you just start a new one. I've given dried flakes to family members too. That's kind of cool. Put it on like I put mine on like a saran wrap and just did a really thin layer and just waited for it to dry out and just kind of cracked it off the saran wrap and gave it. And I think it worked.
Yeah, my favorite way is just kind of, and I learned this from The Perfect Loaf, Mauricio, who's like one of the sourdough gods. He'll probably hate that I said that. But yeah, I think he has like an amazing blog that everybody learned, like a lot of people learned how to make sourdough from. And my favorite way for him to preserve a starter is just tossing it with a lot of flour and kind of just like drying it out.
So like you get kind of crumbles?
Yeah, you get
that?
Crumbles.
Interesting.
And then it's really easy.
Just add water.
Yeah, and just add water and it just comes back to life.
You'd think with something being that simple that you'd have access to it easily. You'd think you could go to a grocery store and get starter because you're going to make bread in a couple days or something like that. But we don't have a system for that.
No. Have you seen the sourdough packs or whatever at the bakery? I think they sell them now. It's like I saw it one time and it's just like a pack and I think it has yeast and some sourdough in it.
Is it for making a starter?
It's for making bread.
Oh, so it's just direct add to your dough.
Yeah, you add it to your dough, kind of like a brownie box.
It's probably got really normal yeast in it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're probably just trying to be able to put the word sourdough on it.
Right.
Yeah. There is one brand that makes like a totally decent take and bake sourdough loaf. It's out of San Francisco. I don't know what they're called, but I see this in like even Walmarts.
Yeah.
Like, and you can take it home and it's easy to tell if it's sourdough.
And it's decent.
Yeah, it's good. It's all right. I mean, if I have nothing else, I will do that over buying a loaf of, sandwich bread. I just won't buy that actually.
Right.
Just like standard bread. But I just forget the name of it. I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, my photographer for the book, she got to eat a lot of sourdough, obviously, when we were making the book. And
how difficult for her that must have been.
And she messaged me recently and was like in a panic because she didn't know where to get sourdough from. You know what? I think Kroger Smith does a pretty good job with their sourdough loaves. And
Whole Foods will have them sometimes, won't they?
Yeah, and there's a company out of Truckee, Nevada. I think it's like the Truckee Sourdough Company or something like that. And they make a really good loaf too.
That's cool.
I haven't checked out the ingredients, but it tastes, delicious.
Yeah. It seems like it's happening.
Right.
It seems like things are getting through and we could get back to this. It's funny, I was in San Francisco not terribly long ago, and I was since they're so linked to the history of sourdough for a number of reasons, I guess. I remember I was walking by a Burger King and they were like, you can get the Big Mac on a sourdough bun. Okay,
there's 5 things wrong with this statement.
Okay.
Because you can't get a Big Mac at Burger King.
Oh, I don't go to Burger King. Can you tell? Wait, what is Burger King's one? The Whopper.
I think it's a Whopper.
The Whopper. Oh, that was really, really dumb of me. Right, Mac as in McDonald's. Yeah, got it. But nonetheless, you can get a Whopper on a sourdough bun. And that's the way my burger game in my house stepped way the fuck up when I was doing sourdough buns. Those things are delicious.
I'm pretty famous for throwing like shade at anybody who I know who is like in proximity of me who will buy bread.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'll make bread.
Do you sell like individual loaves to your friends at all?
I don't
or you just give?
Sell loaves. I do gift.
You do?
Yeah, if somebody wants to buy a loaf, then they can. I just don't know how to price it. Yeah. I haven't figured that out yet because it takes so long. And then I'm like, is like $10 a good price for a loaf? It seems expensive.
If you do the work on your hourly rate there,
right?
And you're still losing.
I'm 100% losing.
Right.
I think if you were doing it like at a bigger scale, maybe then it would be worth it. But yeah, and then so I just give it to them.
So
I make so much bread, I have to get rid of it.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. You can't eat all of it yourself, especially not when you're like making things for the book because you have to photograph it, and then it's like, what are we gonna do with all of this?
Yeah, it was amazing to have my photographer because I think her boyfriend was in med school at the time. So and then she had a son, like a teenage son. So they got a lot of the goodies, and I was like super thankful for it because we could never finish it.
It's a good bartering thing because people can't get it and they don't necessarily want to put the time into making it. So I have traded loaves of bread for a lot of things.
Oh,
in
cool.
particular, like pet sitting.
Nice.
Like we had a neighbor in Colorado who we were good friends with. Two neighbors actually who we were really good friends with, and they would watch our guinea pig when we would go out of town sometimes. Aww. And I'd come back and just make them a loaf, and that was just sort of the deal.
Amazing.
And it's like when you can make things like that, or even I've done that with kombucha, or not traded kombucha, but I'll just bring it with me to different things. It's like such a nice touch to have something that you put that much work into, and then people can enjoy as much as they do.
Yeah,
it's a lot of fun. You'd hate my oven, I guarantee.
What's wrong with your
oven? My oven is less than 14 inches wide, just by a little bit. So you can't fit like a steel or anything good in there.
Okay.
And it's about maybe that tall, maybe 5 inches.
So what do you bake in?
So I got rid of, I have my dad hanging on to my Dutch oven for now.
Okay.
Because there are bigger RV ovens and we actually change units quite a bit now. So I will get an oven that'll fit in again. But I did have to take like the Lodge Dutch ovens where they have the like glass lid holder on top. I had to like unscrew that and like put some aluminum foil over the top because I just couldn't. That was as much as I had. Yeah, exactly. So now I just do everything on a pan in the oven, and I put like ice cubes in a tray and stick it at the bottom.
And you get enough heat.
It's good.
Make it work? Okay.
RV ovens are all propane powered, and they all come from the bottom. So there's no heat coming from the top. So I've learned, but it's not the easiest thing in the world.
Sourdough focaccia. I mean.
Yeah, I mean exactly. You can do.
It's just
pizza crust works out great.
Yeah.
It's awesome. Bagels even are fine. As long as I turn them enough, kind of. It works out.
Yeah.
But it's not. I miss having a big oven.
Have you ever thought of getting one of those pizza ovens that they have now?
I have one.
The small one. Oh, you have one.
I have one.
Can you bake bread in it?
Yeah.
I don't have one.
So I have one. It's called an uni.
Yeah.
It's like
those
the Swedish do.
So
it's
cool.
all. I think it's from somewhere.
Irish, I think.
I think that they are. I'm forgetting the name of this region that I'm trying to think of. Like Finland, Norway, Sweden. Scandinavia.
Okay.
All right, they're Scandinavian in some fashion. So just like IKEA, it all comes apart and becomes very small, and I can fit it in the RV, which is great. It has a tile in there that is a stone.
That kind of heats up, right?
Yes, so that can get nice and hot, and the whole thing runs on pellets. So they say it gets up to like 1,000 degrees. So I make some awesome wood-fired pizzas in that thing. I've tried to make bread on a number of occasions. It just doesn't work out because it just burns. It's too tall.
Hot.
It's too tall. The flame has to go, like the flame in the oven comes from the back and goes over the top of whatever you're cooking and then out a chimney. And so if I have bread there, it'll just burn the top of the loaf on that side and it just turns black, like it's done for.
Because the bread gets too high. Okay.
Yeah. But I do sourdough pizza. It's great.
Yeah.
That works out fine.
Yeah.
But it takes like 60 seconds to cook. It doesn't need much in there. So if you have like a full loaf.
One.
Well, come over sometime and I'll make you guys some sourdough pizzas or something.
That'd be amazing.
A lot of fun.
Yeah, I'll love to try that out.
Yeah. You can see what you think. They have fancier ones too. They have taller ones.
Yeah.
And I can run mine on propane. There's a hookup where I can run it on like just a propane thing instead of pellets, and that's a little more controllable.
Okay.
So it like when you're running pellets, it's full heat. It's full blast, But with the propane, I kind of turned it down a little bit. I even tried to do it. I tried to do it with like just a big cast iron that I would just put over the top of the loaf and send it back so that the flame would hit the cast iron. It still didn't work. It still burned the hell out of it.
Oh my gosh.
I know.
So it must get really hot then.
Yeah. Well, yeah, like 1,000 degrees when it's going. It's just, even on like a low heat setting, it's just wild.
Yeah.
But they are fun. And seriously, come and eat some sourdough pizzas.
Definitely.
I'd love to.
We'll have to get together.
Yeah, we'll do a little bread exchange.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
That'd be good. We can twist our starters together. I'm just kidding. No, never. That'd be strange. That'd be interesting though. Like combining your starter with someone's
starter. I wonder
starter.
who would win. Because it's like somebody's yeast, right?
It's such a personal thing, isn't it?
Would be like
one
dominant.
Yeah, 100%.
Would take over.
100%. It's almost like battle of the yeast. I wonder how you could do that. You'd have to like dye them somehow and then just like put them in an arena. We have a TV show coming here. This is like Battle Bots, but with wild yeast.
I know. The most boring TV show.
Yeah. All right, we'll come back to you in 12 hours. We'll see how they look.
But this is what I tell people when they kind of have trouble with sourdough. Like, unless you cook it or it grows mold, it's probably fine.
Yeah.
The only reason that I personally would make a different starter is if your starter kind of starts developing some off flavors.
Mm-hmm.
And that could just be because of, you didn't feed it for long, and it just, some bacteria kind of started taking over.
Yeah.
Or my original starter, I started feeding it whole wheat, and it really didn't like that. Mm-hmm. So it was like super groggy, and it was just, everything was just so sour and had this like super off flavor to it. So I made a new one.
What do you do now? Do you do half all-purpose?
I just
half
do
wheat?
all AP because
Really?
My starter loves it so much.
Okay.
Yeah, not even bread flour.
Okay.
So if I try to feed it bread flour, it kind of gets really groggy and it won't rise.
And it's just super thick too.
Yeah,
I
the
find
way
it's
that
real
I
hard
want
to stir it in.
Yeah, so she's an AP girl.
Okay. I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I've been doing, usually I do half all-purpose, half whole wheat. And sometimes if I only have bread flour around, I'll just use that instead of all-purpose. But it usually tends to be okay. It's been interesting during this quarantine. I don't know how things were in Tucson this whole time, but I've had a very hard time getting my hands on bread flour in some places that we go. Like the Sprouts that we go to here finally has the bread flour back, but it was dicey there for a little bit.
Yeah, you know what? I got really lucky with the book. I think last year after the Blog Awards, I don't know if you've heard about this company called Central Milling.
No.
They make amazing flour.
Cool.
They're out of, I think, Utah / Petaluma, California. And they invited me to kind of do a giveaway with them and to try out some of their flours. So they gave me a gift card for like $200 worth of flour.
Nice.
So I ordered, right before the quarantine craziness, I ordered 100 pounds of flour.
That's awesome.
And then all the stores ran out of flour.
Yeah.
So I always tell them, like, my cookbook would not have been possible if it wasn't for Central Milling and, like, the nice thing that they did for me and my followers, which is, like, gave me flour. And then we gave away, like, 15 pounds of flour to 3 people.
That's awesome.
Which was amazing during that time because you couldn't find flour.
You could not. No.
Yeah.
Anywhere. You were more likely to find it at, like, a cheap grocery store than a nice grocery store, too.
The ethnic grocery stores still had them.
Oh, interesting.
I think,
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just had to get scrappy with it for a little bit.
Yeah, even toilet paper and paper towels.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you went to like the Mexican grocery store or like the Asian store, you'd find it. But
we got lucky with that because we have to use special RV toilet paper because it has to break down in the tank and all that stuff. And so we can buy that from RV dealers.
Nice.
So no one's got to run on RV dealers when everybody's buying toilet paper for some dumb reason. Like, I don't know what was happening.
I don't know either.
What were we doing?
I have no idea.
But then all of a sudden people at Walmart would buy that RV toilet paper, and we're like, guys, we can't buy other stuff. Like, we have to have very specific type. But luckily we always have another outlet for that, which was good.
Yeah, I remember back then there was like a lady that got super mad about people making starters and bread in their homes.
Right.
Do you remember this?
Well, lots of people were getting mad because they're like, bread is like mine. Like, I was doing it. And like, yeah, okay, a lot of us were doing it before this whole thing.
Yeah.
But you got to see some silver linings here.
Oh, 100%.
People are making their own food.
Yeah.
That is what, like, and think about just basic supply and demand. The more that the grocery store is out of flour, the more flour manufacturers are going to be able to make more flour, better flour. It'll be more in demand. Cooking's more in demand. Everything works out better when cooking's in demand.
Exactly. So I think, it's always a positive when people are making their own food.
Yeah.
Just, the pasta thing, like shelves were sold out of bread and pasta. But, we were never really worried because we could make it ourselves. You know, we're never going to go hungry. And I think, that's kind of something that's been lost in our society is just being able to feed yourself. I mean, there's something to be said about fast options. I understand people are really busy, but, pasta doesn't really take that long, and it's so much better when you can make it yourself, and you just have so much more confidence. And, like you said, nothing is really that bad if you make it yourself. So, I think that's something that people should learn how to do, is because it's really accessible and you can learn how to do it.
There's something really meditative about cooking dinner at the end of the day too, where you're like, whatever bullshit happened today, I'm feeding the people I care about. That's getting done, you know? And I think we're always engaged with this imaginary thing, like this thing that could just disappear, these internet points and this strange world that's all fake. It's not real at all. And then you get to do something with your hands that is completely real. And then you get to sit down and be nourished by this thing that is completely real. I think the more we can hang on to some really real things, real experiences, the better, just in general. And I'm not trying to sound really old school here, because obviously I like the toys too.
Right.
But you got to pick your battles and pick things that you're holding on to. And I don't love the idea of giving away, of segmenting out your life so much that everybody is doing everything for you so that you are just staring at the screen all day. You know what I mean? Like, if my objective, I just feel like the entire system is rigged to make it so that all I have to do in my day is sit here and stare at this laptop. And everybody else will handle everything else for me. They'll handle the food. I even get my grocery. I go pick up my groceries. Like, I don't have to do shit anymore, you know? So you got to have some things you can connect with that are physical and real, and you're having that real experience. I feel like the worst travel vlogger of all time right now at the moment, in general, I do. So my wife and I started this Wild Hicksons is the new brand where we film and photograph and blog about all our travel stuff. But I don't go to any restaurants ever. Like, we don't. If we're ever going to eat out, it's because we're having a crap day and I'm picking up Taco Bell and I'm just going to enjoy that night and just be like, yeah, this happened, you know? But we don't go to restaurants at all, and I know that that's such a huge part of travel. So
people love to eat.
Mostly when you talk to someone about like, oh, what was it like in this place? They're like, well, there was this restaurant and this restaurant. Yeah. I totally get that too, but that's just not how we tend to live. Right. So sometimes I just feel like the worst travel person of all time.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're completely right. I think people have like lost a connection with, you know, making their own food, to the point where like there's people famous for making sourdough, you know?
Right.
Or even, I think it's funny because I just started getting into indoor plants and gardening.
Okay.
And, you know, it's like there's people that are famous for loving indoor plants. But, and I think it's just like, it's because it's fringe, you know? It's because everybody's like not really doing it, that people are kind of elevated to this level. But, yeah, and I think that's like really a shame, because, you know, people should be able to make their own food and have a connection with nature even in their own homes.
Right. It's also specialized.
Yeah.
That's the thing, right?
Exactly.
That's classic economy building. It's just sort of like, we are better at this, so we will only do this. Right. Meanwhile, you will do that because you're better at that.
Right.
So I'm not going to be the best home cook of all time, because that doesn't exist. That I can't specialize in that in my own household, just cooking for me and my wife. That's crazy. But I'm going to do it anyways, because even though I can't specialize in it and it doesn't help anybody's economy at all, to me that can still be important. I'm still hanging on to something.
Right.
Something that's there. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
this is a good diatribe for me.
I think that was like my issue too with my career when I quit my job, was the specialization of everything.
What were you?
I was doing PR. Yeah, I was doing PR. And I just was kind of spinning my wheels. It's a really stressful job. All my PR people out there, you know.
Like crisis management type PR, like in the moment, everything's falling apart.
Yeah, all that, and also just, you know, a crisis is kind of exciting for PR. The day-to-day is what's hard. Okay. Just kind of trying to get attention for your client when, you know, it's kind of always like the stars kind of have to align, where people have to be interested in a certain topic. You know, journalists have to want to write about it. It has to be this whole craze. It should, you know, it has to be able to get clicks. And
above all, it has to get clicks.
And that was just really stressful, and I didn't really love doing it anymore, and it wasn't super rewarding for me. So, and then I felt stuck. I quit my job, and I was going to take the LSATs because I just was not really sure what I wanted to do with my life. And then I made my starter, and it's, you know, it's still a specialty, But it kind of changed my life.
Yeah.
You know, having, like you said, a connection to the physical world, I think is what I loved about it. And then obviously I took it to social media, which is, you know, the virtual world. But, you know, I think there are a lot of negatives about social media and Instagram, but I think there is a community there if you know how to find it, of like-minded people who, you know, are super generous with their support and the knowledge that they'll give you if you're willing to learn. So yeah, there's like some positives about it.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah, that's what, you know, I just kind of, it felt really good to connect with like the physical world in the way that I did when I started making sourdough.
And you have to with sourdough. I mean, they even talk about how you need to put like your hands in there because you're putting more bacteria into the mix somehow. And you can't avoid that. You can't sterilize the process of making something fermented.
No, I think sterilization is a myth. You know, there's always going to be like bacteria. When, you know, my boyfriend, he's like, do you sterilize the jars when you make it? And I'm like, no, just make sure there's no soap.
Yeah, exactly. You want to avoid soap at all costs.
Yeah.
That
make sure
is the
there's
problem.
no soap in the jar, and because you're not going to sterilize.
Right.
You know, it's just, there's always going to be bacteria everywhere.
And you want, assuming that you're using a bowl that, like a bowl or a dish or whatever you use, that formerly had something in it that turned out good, that was not rotten or spoiled or something was off with it, then it's already got good bacteria that are going to lend themselves to the next one. I mean, it's just like making a new batch of kombucha. You keep some of the old batch of kombucha because you need to start it in like an acidic place that the good bacteria are supported. So you just don't want to wipe everything out all the time and clear the slate.
Yeah, and there's also like people ask like how often should you change your jar? But your jar is a big part of it because it has all the good yeast and bacteria in there that are helping your sourdough, you know.
Do you use a classic like mason jar?
You know what?
Are you fancy enough for that?
I do have a mason. I used a mason jar forever. But my friend Jim at Challenger Breadware, he just started coming out with these starter jars that have no ridges on the top. So it's completely smooth. It's a wide mouth. So my jars would kind of get gunky where you put the lid on.
Yep.
And this one is just like a wood lid. You just plop it on there.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's really awesome.
That's nice.
Yeah. So I think he's going to start selling them probably next year. So yeah, people should look out for those because they're really neat.
Yeah, I ditched the mason jar a long time ago.
You did?
Yeah, because you can't get it all out of there. It's just they're always like messy and rough. Like I just bought a set of Pyrex mixing bowls, and I will use the smallest two and just keep the starter alive between those two.
Yeah,
it's very simple.
Yeah.
But again, it's just people making it more complicated than it needs to be, and that I think is part of the influence of sometimes that social media can have, because you look at someone else and it's like the very fancy person has the fancy mason jar. And it looks great, and they've got the cool like tea cloth lid, you know, just beautiful. But in reality, it's not all that useful. It's probably the more difficult you're making it, the more picturesque you're making it, sometimes makes it more difficult. And then you're not going to continue making bread because it's just going to wear you down.
Yeah.
I think it wears people down to have to feel like everything's pretty all the time.
Yeah, I mean, I get that. And I mean, you know, I think that's the thing. Like, this is social media, you know? Like, I don't really keep my grains and my flour in, like, mason jars. I keep them in, like, big Cambro tubs that I can scoop out of. Right. You know, it's just for the picture.
Yeah. I think that the dude who got me to the next level with sourdough, have you ever seen French guy cooking on YouTube? That was his video on sourdough was the one that really got me to the next level.
Yeah. I think the recipe that I followed for my recipe, the formula method that I followed for making my starter was Paul Hollywood's apple.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
He's the one from Great British
Baking Show.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So I followed his kind of method for making a starter. It exploded, but it was fine.
How did it explode? Did you seal it or what?
I think it was sealed. I don't think it was sealed, actually. I'm not really sure. I think you did put a cloth over it, but I think it was super active because you had to grate an apple into the flour.
So super sugary.
Yeah, super sugary.
Interesting.
Yeah, so you grate an apple into the flour and then a little bit of water, and then you don't stir it for like 3 days. You just like leave it in the cupboard. And I think there was just so much action in there that, it just exploded.
That's so funny.
But it was a really active starter for a while. And then the French guy cooking in his recipe is what I followed for my first loaf.
He does some awesome stuff.
Oh yeah.
I would love to just see a day in his life where because he's got that awesome workshop that he like does everything in, and I'm always amazed by people who can both do the thing they're doing and then also document it really well without the two things interfering. Because I actually have to do that now, unfortunately. My life now is on a vlog, but it's still so separated for me. It has to be like times where we're going to film and then times where I just get to be a person.
Yeah.
I just feel like some people are so much more comfortable combining those two things.
Oh yeah, I super admire that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't just show up in front of my camera and just take pictures of myself. I can't do it.
I think it's because they're more honest than us.
Yeah, 100%.
That's the truth of it. Like the reason I struggle with any of that is because I want it to be curated and perfect, and because I'm embarrassed about what it really is. You know what I mean? But making content's good because it pushes you to then be more honest.
Right.
Because you're like, you just don't have the time to both make it all the time and also make everything look perfect all the time.
Yeah. I know, like, you should. I mean, in terms of my account and branding wise, I think it's good to kind of connect with your followers and like show yourself, I think, because otherwise it could just be anybody making that loaf of bread.
Right.
But I just can't. I'm just like, I can't do it sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I can't get on camera.
Right.
I've started taking pictures of myself here and there. People always ask me if I am ever going to do YouTube, but it's just a lot. Like, videos are really hard, I feel like.
Yeah.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah. I think the only reason it's happening right now is because Andrea and I own a marketing company and we have a team that produces videos and handles social media. So we get to then also collaborate with our own team to put things out. So if it was an individual venture and it was just us doing all of the filming, all of the editing, all of the posting, all the interaction, it's too much. It's too much. And you're going to lose the thing you actually like doing. It's actually, so I don't actually put cooking, like, even though I'm very passionate about it, I do it every day, I don't put it on social media at all because I've just drawn this line. I'm like, you know what? Nah, like I have to do it with everything else. Yeah, it is. I'll take if I make a nice batch of bagels, I'll put it on like my story. Yeah. And I'll just be like, here's some bagels, you know. Yeah. But I just don't. There's some things you got to keep for yourself, you know. Are you gonna go all out with the indoor gardening and the plants and everything and make a brand with those too?
I don't know.
It's out there.
I've thought about it.
You're good at it.
Yeah, I've thought about it, but I don't know. It's hard. I feel like it's a little bit more intrusive because it's in your spaces. You know, where, you know, the bread thing is just kind of, you know, in my guest bedroom and I get to kind of control it. But this would be kind of just like, you know, people seeing how I live in my home, you know. So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I appreciate that about you because we all want some sense of like privacy to our lives.
Right.
We're not really meant to be doing this thing where millions of people can see every facet of your life. It's super strange. If it comes naturally to you, congratulations, I guess. You've won the lottery of what feels normal and you're going to crush it on social media.
Yeah.
But I can't do it all the time.
I can't. I find it really difficult to talk into my phone.
Me too.
While I seem while seeing myself on the screen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And some days I just want to wear that shitty shirt with a hole in it. Yeah. And I don't want to give a fuck about that. You know, it's just going to happen.
It's a look, though.
Not this shirt. Not if you knew the shirt I was talking about. It's not good. It's not good. But it's the comfiest shirt I own. Yeah. So, you know. We don't want to have to be presenting something all the time.
Yeah. It's hard to be on, I feel like. Yeah.
But you're doing it. You're doing it out there. Like I do it because I need to. I consider like the podcast to be the place where I get to actually create something that I'm really passionate about. But on my own social media, like at T Hicks in Life, it's just going to be a collection of things that I was out doing. Right. I'm not worried about curating it. I have to on Wild Hicksons where we're doing all the travel stuff. It's all curated. It's all nice. But you're quite good at it. I mean, your Instagram looks absolutely beautiful.
Oh, thanks.
And you see right away, sort of, there's a vibe, you know.
I'm glad you said that. It's hard to it took me a while kind of to develop my style, and I'm still kind of, you know, learning how to do the photography thing, the editing thing, and, it's nice when you're like doing it yourself, and you do kind of feel a sense of accomplishment with that. And when people start kind of commenting on the photography thing, it's like super. I get really happy about it because it is just like a skill that I'm just learning now.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it'll keep going. But you're already leagues above what most of us can achieve in terms of like that aesthetic. It's
you.
awesome.
Yeah.
So a question for you.
Mm-hmm.
So I did an episode a while back with some friends in Las Cruces, New Mexico.
Okay.
Kind Bread is their, and I think they actually follow you on Instagram. It's funny.
Awesome. I think I follow them too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're great. They're phenomenal.
They're amazing.
They have an awesome operation there because they're really doing it like we were talking about. They're doing that middle step between like large scale bakery and just home cook who shares, their sourdough with people.
Are they cottage? I don't. But I
don't know how to define exactly.
Okay.
But they
have a kitchen.
They're commercial now.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But it's all like in Las Cruces, so you can find their stuff at bakeries and coffee places,
amazing.
and well, I guess not bakery, but probably coffee places, and even in some stores now. And they produce so much bread. But they were the first that also did the same. I was like, how are you guys taking pictures and making bread look this good? It's just insane. They're very good at it. So when we did our episode together, we called up the King Arthur 24/7 baking hotline. Have you ever called the baking hotline?
No, I haven't. I have asked questions
have you heard
on
of
there.
it?
I have. I've heard of it, and I've commented on King Arthur's stuff.
Okay.
For like questions. When I first started making my starter, I think on like day 3 or day 4, the dreaded day 3 and day 4, when your starter kind of like falls flat and looks like it's dead, and when you're new, you think it's dead.
Right.
So I asked a question on there, and I was like in a panic asking about
like on an online forum.
Yeah,
they have a great forum. They have a great forum, but they also have a hotline, a legitimate number, and we called it on the episode to see how it would work, and we got connected. I just love the idea that there's just these like bakers out there who, I mean, it's got to be like a phone bank, right? It's got to be like it rings through to someone's number, and if they're not available, we kind of go down a chain of something. Because there's no way they have like a full-time staff of people sitting around answering baking questions that are being
do you think people get paid hourly?
That's what I wonder. Or do you get paid per phone call? And so
this is really interesting.
I want to be a part of it.
I just
where's my application?
How do I apply?
If it's sourdough, I think I could do it. But if it's I don't do a lot beyond that. I don't do pastry.
You don't do sugar.
Exactly. Exactly. So as soon as I see sugar in a recipe, I'm like, I'm out. I'm done.
Wow.
Kinda. Or mostly I'll just make it and not put any sugar in.
Okay.
Which is terrible.
Yeah.
I made cinnamon rolls with no sugar. Is that bad?
It could be.
They were pretty good.
What was the?
I used honey.
Honey. Okay.
But not a ton.
Sugar. Yeah.
Yeah. They were good though.
Yeah, I bet.
The nice thing is when you get off sugar, everything's sweet.
Everything's sweet. Okay.
Oh, it's so sweet. Like
I bet you could actually do like a blueberry filling or something. Like cook down the blueberries. Maybe add a little bit of honey in there.
That's a really good idea. I will try that next time.
Don't add any water.
Here's my issue. Okay. When I cut them and let them rise, the honey was leaking out the bottom.
Yeah, that happens. Yeah. That happens with sugar too.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I wasn't.
No, I think it happens with everybody's cinnamon rolls.
Okay.
But
it was disheartening.
It just happens.
Because I made them and they were beautiful, and like an hour later, I was like, all of the honey's coming out.
You're like, who are these girls?
Yeah, this is gonna be rough. But no, we did. We called this hotline, and it was a decent answer to a question we had come up with. We asked them what to do with the liquid that appears if you haven't used your starter in a while.
Okay. The hooch.
Yeah. What do you do with the hooch? Because maybe I'm going to make this a through line. Every time I have a sourdough person on, I'm going to get an opinion on this.
So it depends. If my starter is new and I want it to be a little sour, then I'll stir it in. But if my starter's already super funky and I love the taste of it, then I'll pour it out.
That's perfect. Because there's no right answer. Because you can do either one.
Yeah.
I always stir it back in.
Some people drink it.
Does it get you drunk?
I don't know.
If your stomach was empty...
I have no idea.
It's pretty high alcohol content, I imagine.
Yeah, that's what it like alcohol, like just like homemade alcohol is called like hooch, right? Yeah.
This is like if you make it in a toilet in prison.
Right, exactly. That's what I was gonna say.
Hooch. Not that I have a lot of experience with that. I've only done it twice. But yeah, I think that would probably there'd be some alcoholic effect. There just would never be enough of it.
Yeah,
but if
I
you
don't
had like
know
a
if somebody
massive
would
commercial
drink it.
starter.
For probiotics, maybe. I'm not really sure.
Do you drink like apple cider vinegar ever?
No, I don't.
I do that.
I'm not that. I'm not there. But I did do the kefir and the kombucha for a while. Yeah.
It's my favorite science fact ever that I've dropped on this podcast a number of times.
Okay.
Which is that humans are made up of 10 times more bacteria than we are human cells. So you're walking bacteria.
Right.
Way more bacteria than you are human. That is wild to me.
Yeah.
And so I love all things like putting like bacteria, gut health. I'm super into it. I love it a lot. And it gets tricky too, because you'll go online and you'll look about like what things should I be eating for good gut health. And someone will say like sauerkraut. Like that's a really good example. But you go to the store and the sauerkraut you're buying in the store is often not even naturally fermented.
You gotta make it.
You have to make it yourself.
Yeah.
Do you mess around with any of that, like pickling or anything like that?
Yeah, I have. It's really good. I mean, it's hard because it's just me and my boyfriend, and we can't go through all of it when I make it. But I've made sauerkraut before. It's really good. It's really easy too. It's just salt and cabbage.
And nothing exploded on you or anything like that?
No.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna try it one of these days.
Oh my, you haven't tried it yet?
I haven't done it myself.
Okay, it's literally just cabbage and salt, and you just crush it with your hand.
Right.
And then you put it in a jar and just leave it for like a week or something.
That's it?
And it's really good.
Okay.
It's delicious. You can put other stuff in it. Like sometimes I'll put garlic or like coriander seeds.
You can put ginger in it too sometimes.
Yeah.
I like sourdough or sauerkraut, and I like kimchi also.
Same way. You make it the same way.
Right. But the one that actually intrigues me, I don't like pickles all that much. I'm not a big pickle guy. I'll put them on a burger, but I don't love pickles, so I'm not going to get super into that. But that people do for naturally fermented hot sauce, I'm very into that.
I've made that.
Is it good?
It's really good.
Okay.
It's really good. We started gardening 2 years ago maybe, so we'll do like a small container garden with like chilies and tomatoes and whatever else. And we grew some arboles. Those are really hot a few years ago. And then you just throw them in a jar with, I think, 5% brine solution.
Okay.
And then...
Just salt and water? Or
Yeah.
Okay.
So like 5% salt by weight compared to water. And then you just throw it in there. You make sure everything is submerged so it doesn't grow any mold. And then I think I left it for like 2 to 3 weeks. And it gets really funky and really good. And then you just splits it up.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and then you just bottle it, and it's good to
thing.
go.
So this is
you
how...
need to do it. It's really good.
I will. I'm definitely going to now. Especially, like, it's again, the podcast is so great. Because, again, I get to come back to these things. I haven't thought about all this in a while. I've been a little obsessed with jiu-jitsu lately. So podcast listeners have been having to listen to me talk to a bunch of jiu-jitsu people. But now I'm like, fermentation. Okay, I'm back. I'm back on the train. But I think this is the key to me not being a terrible travel vlogger at some point, which is that I will learn to use the local ingredients and something that is unique locally in my own stuff. And then we're good to go. Yeah. Because there's a lot of cool chilies here. When we were in New Mexico, we were like staying near Hatch, New Mexico. Like there were Hatch green chilies everywhere. So I just got to learn that step and then we'll be cool.
Yeah. There's like prickly pear in the summer.
Okay. So what's the Arizona thing in the winter? What is because I'm missing the time for prickly pear, I guess. What should I do?
Honestly, I just moved here.
Okay. That's fair. That's fair. I'll be looking it up.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know. I can't say right now, but there's so many things here. It's so amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had one for you and I lost it. See, it's been a day. Nope, it's gone.
But you were saying about Kind Bread.
Yeah.
And their whole operation and how they've kind of like turned that into like a commercial thing. I always struggle with that because I do love baking. I don't know if I would like make it as a baker, like a full-time commercial baker.
That's like wake up at 3 a.m. to go stir 40 pounds of starter. It's a lot. And you're working with those steam ovens all day. Just like it's 1,000,000 degrees and you can't leave.
Yeah. So I struggle with that because I do love baking and I want to share like what I make with people. But yeah, I don't know. And I don't really like love relying on social media for my livelihood. And, you know, it's like has a lot of like mental health things attached to it, which I try to escape or like I try to like ignore a lot of the time. But yeah, I'm like, should I just pivot into baking like full time?
I want to start a Tucson bakery with you. That's what we need to do. We could do it. I'll do all the grunt work because I'd be happier there anyways. If I don't have to see anybody ever, and you just take nice pictures. It's a good combination. Yeah, it's like. But you make it. I think it's almost perfect for this new way people are doing everything, including food, which is like the subscription model, right? Like pay X per month, and you're gonna get a loaf a week. And with the right like with a family of 3 or 4,
right?
You could get away with like a loaf a week. Right? Couldn't you? Like you get it for like dinner one night and you know what day you're going to get it. And so you make something that goes really nicely. Like you're going to make something that you can use the bread for. You're going to have like a sandwich night or something like that, you know?
Yeah.
And then if the sourdough's made right, it'll stay pretty good for a couple days. If it's got that crispy crust and, you know, so I feel like subscribe to it and then you get your regular loaf every whatever. And, you know, you deliver it. There you go. It works with COVID. I think that's the next thing. I was really excited for those guys, especially because I think Las Cruces is a town that is just waiting to explode. I really do. It is a phenomenal place. It's like next Austin. I just feel like it's gonna happen there.
Yeah, I can't wait to go to New Mexico. I really want to check it out because I've heard it's really, really beautiful. And
have you not been
awesome.
at all?
No, I've never been. Yeah. That's our next stop, I think, when we start traveling again. We just bought our house, so it's hard to like leave it.
I get that.
Yeah, we just like I said before, we would always like spin our wheels like where to go next. But now it's just like I don't even want to travel because I just
get an RV and then just travel all the time.
I know, right? Well, we have our house and our 3 cats.
Yeah, yeah, and also you'd hate my oven, so you just couldn't do it. But
yeah, I gotta go to New Mexico. But I feel like Tucson's one of those towns that people don't know about.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, they don't. People are sleeping on Tucson.
For sure, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure Tucsonites actually appreciate because
yeah.
you don't really want to be Austin right now. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like you've been living there your whole life. We have some family that live there, and I guarantee they're not going to love. It's already been just exploding out there. And it's just going to get worse and worse.
How expensive it is.
Yeah, not just expensive to live there, but then it gets so busy and the traffic gets crazy and you don't have the infrastructure for that. And then you start to get like neighborhoods that get completely gentrified and totally in ways you just weren't expecting because it's all these like San Francisco people moving there, you know. I just don't think you actually want to be there. I think you want to be in the place people are missing. It's like the second option.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I get that. Tucson's just so cool. I feel like people are always, when people ask me, like when I tell people that we're moving that we moved to Tucson, or when I told them that we were moving to Tucson, everybody was always like, why?
Because it's the best.
They just like don't know.
Yeah.
You know, and I'd have to explain it, but now I told my boyfriend, every time somebody asks why Tucson, unless somebody's just like, oh, Tucson's dope, then I'll go into it. But if not, I'm just going to be like, you wouldn't get it.
You wouldn't get it. You wouldn't understand why it's so cool out here. I'm just an Instagram influencer. You wouldn't get it. No, you've got mountains that you can go to right next door.
A million breweries with actually really good beer.
It's like there's a real hipster vibe in the town.
Oh my God.
There's a lot of art happening.
Have you been to Crooked Tooth?
No.
Yeah. So are you into crystals at all?
Crystals?
Yeah.
Like crystal healing?
Yeah. Some people are into it.
Okay. I don't like to be mean to anybody's
I'm not there.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm not gonna, don't yuck my yum.
Okay.
But I'm kind of into it.
Okay.
But, some people are, and I respect it. That's your thing. I love sourdough. You love crystals. But Crooked Tooth does this thing where they, like, brew some of their beer with, like, crystals.
Wow.
Because I think one of the owners is a shaman.
Okay.
So they do this, like, fun thing with employees where they'll do it, like, a midnight brewing or whatever.
Oh.
Yeah.
I had a Tucson friend who I asked, who should I have on the podcast? And they hadn't sent me you. I actually found you through one of the people they sent me who does a podcast about Tucson.
Tatum.
Yeah.
Tucson type. Yeah. She's awesome.
So that's how I found you.
Yeah.
But she did send me someone who is a crystal healer. And I was like, I don't know if I can do it, because let's just say hypothetically that I'm super skeptical about it.
Yeah.
I just don't feel like that's a nice conversation, because I don't want to have somebody on and be like, all right, here's all the things I think are wrong with what you do.
Right.
And I also don't want to have someone on and be like, tell me about all these things that I'm not really going to believe.
Right.
But I'd have to agree with to be polite.
Right.
It's super hard.
Yeah.
That's the thing about
really
this
hard.
podcast. I get to decide who comes on this
Exactly.
podcast.
It's your thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
100%. No one gets to tell me who can come on this podcast.
Exactly.
It has to be someone I think is interesting and fun.
Yeah. Just like I'm never going to put volume measurements on my blog.
There you go. Yes. Draw that line in the sand. These are things we will not do. But no, that sounds kind of fun, though. Definitely sounds fun to have some crystal beer.
The beer was really good.
Probably from the crystals.
If you're super into crystals, you probably would love it for that.
Yeah.
But like, if you just like beer, the beer there is actually really good. And they're right across the street from this pizza shop called Anello.
Okay.
So many name drops on this podcast.
That's good. Well, you're like, I just moved here, but you know everything. Okay.
So they're across the street from this pizza shop called Anello with like they make amazing pizza.
Okay.
So you just walk over to Anello. You go up to this like little window that they have. You order your pizzas, and then you sit at the brewery, and they'll bring you your pizza.
I like that kind of vibe.
Yeah.
I can do that.
Yeah, and they have like an outdoor seating area.
Okay.
And that's like super awesome. They have plants outside. It's really cool.
Screw my pizza. Let's go there. That sounds way better than my pizza.
No cleanup.
Yeah.
They'll do everything for you.
They'll do everything for you so that you can just focus on staring at your laptop. And then you can
or your friends.
Or your friends. I'm totally teasing.
Right.
I'm not actually like a food Nazi. Like I really think eating out is so much fun, but I think I make it more fun because I don't do it very often. You know?
Me and my boyfriend cook all the time.
Yeah.
We'll cook like
so that was what I was going to
95%
ask you.
of the time.
That was the one I lost. Was if you do all the cooking or if he also cooks.
He also cooks. He was really good at like smoking meats. That's kind of his
such a good combination.
Yeah, that's his like domain.
Too.
Yeah, he like does a really mean brisket or like pulled pork.
Does he have like a pellet grill?
No, he doesn't. He has the old school Weber.
Wow.
Smoker,
See,
yeah.
I'm more impressed by that.
Weber barbecue and Weber. He does want this like gangster barbecue.
Like a Traeger.
A Yoder smoker, which is like more gangster. Like if you want a Yoder.
Oh,
yeah.
It's
It's like a barbecue thing.
The only thing I hear is the Traeger or the egg.
Yeah, the most gangster people use Yoders apparently.
Okay. Mm-hmm. I've seen this amazing video on YouTube of a dude that has converted a file cabinet into a smoker. Have you seen this?
No.
So he takes this like a metal file cabinet. It would totally work. I buy it. And he puts like grate on the bottom instead of like metal on the bottom of the drawers. He puts just like a grate there.
Yeah.
Puts the meat on it. Closes all the drawers, and at the bottom, I think he's got some sort of small fire going.
Oh my gosh,
and
that works, right?
It totally works. It's just a metal container with grates. That's it. I like it.
As long as you can like
it was supposed to be like hood
heat,
barbecue,
right?
I think, but it was. But I like it. I like it a lot.
Yeah, so he does really well at smoking meats. He does amazing Indian food.
Okay.
He's white, but he does amazing Indian food.
I don't know much about Indian food.
Yeah,
I just don't.
so
I had some bad Indian food, and that's
no.
my own experiences.
It's we love Indian food, and then he got really into these like Indian channels on YouTube. So they don't speak English, but they have like captions, like or like translations. And it was good because when you cook Indian food, you get really deep into spices. So that's one thing that I like do tell people when they want to learn how to cook is, study a certain ethnic food.
Yeah.
Mexican is a really good one too because they're super into spices and
it's easy one to start with too.
The food is super complex.
Yeah.
Where you get really into the flavors. It's really funny. We invited some people over for a barbecue pre-COVID, and my boyfriend was like kind of in the kitchen mixing stuff up, and he was telling them what kind of spices was in the food, and this guy was like, that's how you know how to cook is when you know what coriander's for.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah,
Most
it was
people would be like,
hilarious.
"What?"
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that for? Yeah.
Well, that is nice that the two of you share that then. And I
Yeah.
can imagine that the sandwiches that come between the two of you are just like food babies of immense proportion. Like smoked meat on sourdough.
Right.
Yeah, any day.
Yeah.
Any day.
So good. Tri-tip
That's awesome.
sandwiches on focaccia.
Come on. Come on. That sounds so good. Yeah, I'm more of a one-man operation. I kind of do it, but that's because I just kind of have to do it all myself because I'll micromanage the hell out of the kitchen if not. Yeah, that started out of necessity though, because Andrea just used to work so much. She used to have to like edit every video we were doing for our company, and so it kind of started with like, I will cook dinner because I know you have more work than me.
Yeah.
And now it's just kind of evolved where it's just I just do everything.
Do you guys both like to cook or?
Yeah, she likes to cook, and she'll make herself she will make herself really nice breakfasts because I don't eat breakfast unless someone makes me eat breakfast. I only eat dinner usually, so she'll make herself like really nice skillets with like eggs and potatoes,
Fun.
She'll eat like asparagus in her breakfast skillet though, which I think.
I've done that with like a soft boiled egg. Can't beat it.
She's bold. I'll give her that. I just don't want anything in the mornings usually.
Okay.
Unless we're gonna have like a bunch of pancakes and bacon. I'm not really into it.
Okay.
I just can't eat it.
Yeah, I've been getting into making. We don't eat breakfast either. We just usually have dinner.
Yeah.
But and I'll just have my cup of coffee. But I've been getting into like making breakfast in the morning.
Really?
I think it's like book anxiety.
Oh.
Yeah.
Are you because you're delaying like getting into work or because?
Yeah, just kind of like not looking at my phone,
Yeah, there's something to do.
That's why like I love baking is just, I get anxious about so many things and
you can't look at your phone when you've got dough all over your hands.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So just kind of focus on, like one activity.
You're right.
And being absorbed into something where I like don't want to be distracted looking at my phone, worrying about logistical issues that are happening with Amazon.
It's Zen in the art of sourdough baking.
Yes.
It's really what's going on.
Yeah, for sure.
So the only other question I really had for you was, is it really bad if I get your book on Kindle? Because am I going to miss out on all the nice photos? Because I don't have space for books.
Yeah.
It's all going to happen on the Kindle. Am I really going to miss out?
I think it's fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I think you get the pictures on Kindle, don't you?
You do. And in fact, I have some really good cooking books. Like I have Aaron Franklin's barbecue book.
Yeah.
And I will look at the pictures on my phone.
That's a really good one. Yeah. I think it's fine.
Make sure.
Yeah, I love the pictures are awesome. Yeah, my photographer actually, her name's Gabby. She's out of Las Vegas. She was actually a wedding photographer.
Okay.
So I think she did mostly weddings and like food on the side for some magazines. And then my publisher had sent me all these Vegas food photographers when we were trying to look for a photographer for the book. And I just wasn't vibing with anybody's aesthetic. It was very like hard light, a lot of, it was like dark style photography that I just was like seeing everywhere and wasn't really my style. So I kind of found her website. I don't really even know how I found her website, but I kind of just found it online, and then I really vibed with what she was doing in her style.
So did she like come live with you for like a week while you made every recipe in the book, or what happened?
No, so I would go over to her house with like trays of bread and food, and then every weekend because I was working full time while I was writing the book.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so I had a job, and so I would every weekend I'd come to her house and we'd shoot photos. She actually was very instrumental as well in like improving my photography. She wasn't like necessarily teaching me out while I was there, but I was definitely watching her like style her photos.
Yeah.
And kind of just
there's nothing like being around someone who's real good at that. And
then
incorporate it.
So thank you to my publisher for paying for that masterclass.
Yeah, that's great.
But so I kind of like learned how to, what props to pick and, how to style my shots. And I think, I owe a lot of, the aesthetic of my Instagram, I think, to her.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, that's good for your publisher too, because you're going to be the one who sells the books on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's going to be you. So the nicer your stuff looks as you're promoting the book, the better for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah. I mean, it's like you know, be warned. If you write a book, I think everybody out there, you're going to have to do all the work for marketing.
Yeah. It's true.
Yeah.
It's true. That could be a whole separate podcast. I'm so curious about the publishing industry.
Oh my gosh. It's a lot.
Yeah, I can imagine. But so
maybe
the book,
we'll talk about it off the record.
That sounds good. That's true. That's the bonus of Strangers Worth Meeting too, is that only some things go on this podcast, you listeners. So the book should be out shortly, if not already, by the time this episode comes out.
Yeah. So the book is out. It's you can get it through Amazon, Barnes, and you can even ask your local bookstore to order it for you because we love to support local bookstores that we all know they're struggling right now. But yeah, you can get it pretty much everywhere.
Sourdough Every Day by Dela Cruz. What is the blog? Can you give us the URLs and give us your handle and everything? People can find you?
I'm on Instagram at makeitdough, and it's makeitdough.com.
We were so close.
Oh no!
The camera just went out. You know what? Since we're just in the episode here, I'm not going to start a new one. Please just continue, and whoever's watching the video version is just going to have to listen to the last bit of this. I was like watching it low battery. No. Okay.
Yeah, so it's at makeitdough on Instagram, and makeitdough.com is the blog.
Perfect. I'm going to snap a few pictures as always before we leave here, so you can find me as usual at TXandLife on Instagram or Twitter, people. And lots more coming from Tucson because this town is just exploding with awesome people, and so I will have lots more episodes coming at you. And Merry Christmas? No, Happy New Year? When does this episode go out? Happy New Year,
Happy
probably.
holidays.
Happy holidays. Hope you enjoy the transition. Hope 2021 is much, 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 much better for you than 2020. Thank you, everybody, for listening. As always, we will see you on the next episode.